live, and we're going to talk about ashwagandha today, one of my favorite things, and I'm just going to blow your mind about ashwagandha because what it does is freaking amazing, all the different things it does. So let me just get organized here and make sure I'm on. Yep, I am. I'm on YouTube, and then I'll catch your questions at the end after I go over all the miraculous, wonderful things about ashwagandha. So I'm going to break it down for you. Ashwagandha is an Ayurvedic herb. It's been used for thousands of years. We use the root of the herb, and the Latin name is Withania somnifera, and that translation in English means smells like horse shit or smells like horse sweat. So ashwagandha has an interesting history, really cool stuff. The other things that I want you to know is always work with a veterinary herbalist or a human registered herbalist if you're using it for yourself. Okay, that's kind of the smart thing to do, because herbs are they're not just like little spices. Herbs are medicinal and they can be quite strong, and we're going to go over some of the strong things that ashwagandha does. So the specific indications for ashwagandha as an herb is for a person or a pet that is weak, depleted, fatigued, maybe anemic, maybe they have insomnia, poor memory, like cognitive stuff in pets, or even anxiety. We have a lot of anxiety in pets. So this is a nice adjunct to whatever you're already doing, or something that can take the place of pharmaceuticals, because pharmaceuticals have their drawbacks, as you know. So the first thing we're going to go over is what ashwagandha does for us and our pets in regards to stress, anxiety, and the nervous system. So in people, it has been, actually, it's been researched in people and animals. Tons of research. If you go on PubMed or Google Scholar, type in ashwagandha or Withania somnifera, you will see hundreds of studies on this. So this is all researched and information from research, not just from the traditional uses, which have been happening for over 1,000 years. So this is research also. So ashwagandha in people helps with anxiety, poor memory, cloudy thinking, bad dreams, poor sleep quality and or insomnia, and nervous exhaustion. And those things can happen in our pets too, our pets and animals. Because pets, I'm kind of including horses, because there are some studies on horses that you can pull up with ashwagandha. Real interesting stuff. So in people, ashwagandha reduces symptoms of depression and anxiety. It improves sleep quality and prevents insomnia. So with our pets, let's talk about practical things with our pets. So maybe your pet has thunderstorm phobia, or firework phobia, or some kind of noise phobia that, you make a big noise in the kitchen and your pet goes under the bed or in the closet or is shaking. So for a pet with phobias, ashwagandha can recalibrate the stress response over time. So this is not something that you just give when it happens. You want to give daily support. You want to start, before thunderstorm season or well before 4th of July and New Year's Eve. You want to start with daily support before and during that particular season. So you don't want to wait for the panic to start. It's something that will build up over time in their system. So herbs are not like pharmaceuticals. Like pharmaceuticals, for example, clomicalm or something that you would use for anxiety in a pet. Those work immediately. Pharmaceuticals like change the body physiology immediately and also give you lots of side effects, which we don't want. Whereas herbs like ashwagandha take days to weeks to reach effect. And usually what I'll say is 3 to 4 weeks. So I actually will start a supplement about 3 weeks before I'm anticipating something. So you want to give your herbs 3 or 4 weeks to really kick in. So you have to remember that. But some of these guys, like if we have pets with separation anxiety, this is something that you can use on a daily basis, and you'll see an improvement after about a month, and then you'll keep seeing improvements as the body rebalances and it kicks in. So with separation anxiety, the way ashwagandha works is it lowers cortisol. So your cortisol or stress hormones are usually really high when you're stressed or anxious. So ashwagandha actually lowers the cortisol to a normal level. So it modulates it. It doesn't tank it. It modulates it. And it also supports nervous system resilience. It promotes the ability to recover or to recalibrate over time rather than just masking symptoms. So what about our pets with hypervigilance? So the ones that are always on guard, they're guarding you, they're circling the perimeter of your yard. They always have their eyes on whatever they are worried about. They startle easily. They can't settle down. They're watching every movement you make. They pace around the house. These guys are stuck in sympathetic fight or flight loop. So they're just stuck in this loop of fight or flight, and they can't calm down. So this hypervigilant pet, especially like the dogs, this is a nice herb for. What about rescued animals or newly adopted pets? They take months to really calm down and get used to a new environment. Their cortisol is also chronically elevated from the stress of being in a shelter, the stress of going from home to place. And a newly adopted pet is even though it's probably a really good change, it's very stressful to them. So we want to help bring that stress response back to baseline while they decompress in your household. And ashwagandha is a very safe, easy way to do that. And I'm going to go over the types of formulations of ashwagandha that you can use in a little bit. And then there are reactive dogs or reactive pets too. I guess cats can be reactive. The cats that like stalk another cat or whack you with their paw. So with reactive pets, calming the nervous system can raise that threshold for reactivity, meaning it takes more to actually cause reactivity in them when they take ashwagandha or when they're on ashwagandha for a while. And it also makes training more effective because they can actually focus. They're not like in this fight or flight situation all the time. So it can really help reactive dogs. And then also the kitty cats, like kitty cats with stress behaviors, over grooming, urine marking, hiding, aggression to their housemates. Cats get stressed a lot, and they are deeply affected by stress. And ashwagandha can be a real gentle support for them. if you can get it into them. They're a little bit more challenging, but it's doable. Senior pets, the ones that kind of are borderline cognitive dysfunction, where they're restless at night, they don't sleep well, they're up and down, they move around, they pace in the house at night. These guys can really benefit from ashwagandha. It's mildly sedative and it has nervous system supportive properties. So it's an excellent adjunct to whatever else you're doing for your old dog with cognitive problems or precognitive symptoms. Another form of anxiety is travel anxiety. So what if you're going on a trip and your pet is not good in the car and you're like, oh God, what do I do? So this is when you want to start, 3 or 4 weeks before you're going on a trip, unless your pet is on it already long term. But if they're not already on it, you can start a month before your trip is planned. Even if it's like, if you're flying with your pet, this is still appropriate because that's travel anxiety, whether you're flying or driving or on a boat or however you're getting there. So you want to start well before you're going to leave so that the ashwagandha can kick in to take that edge off. Another really interesting use of ashwagandha is for pre-veterinary visits. And a veterinary visit to a hospital is very stressful. So if you can kind of predict that, sometimes you really can't. And even if you have to go in like on an emergency basis, it's still not a bad idea to try some ashwagandha or to try a supplement that contains ashwagandha. But it can be part of a pre-visit calming protocol for your pet. And your pet will appreciate that, and so will the veterinary staff at the hospital, and so will you, because things will be calm and going well, or better than expected, right? So ashwagandha works best when given consistently over time. So you think of it as building emotional resilience, not as knocking your pet out before a scary event, where it's not a sedative. It's just modulating the stress and helping them deal with the stress. So another thing besides the stress and anxiety is specific brain health and the cognitive issues, but brain health. And human indications are things like poor memory or brain fog, because ashwagandha is neuroprotective, so it can help with brain issues. Other things that we see for people is it protects against PTSD-induced memory loss. There are studies on that, really interesting. It improves neurological symptoms of things like Parkinson's disease. There are studies where ashwagandha has reversed Alzheimer's disease in animal models, including the behavioral issues, and it helps reduce the accumulation of beta amyloid peptides and the amyloid plaque deposition that are hallmarks of Alzheimer's disease. That's kind of debatable now because there's actually studies that are showing that's not the primary thing, but it's a thing. So in people, it improves their cognitive function, their reaction times, and their motor skills. So it's used for a lot of different human conditions. And in pets, we think about doggy dementia. We think about canine cognitive dysfunction. The old dog that's pacing at night, doesn't recognize you, gets stuck behind furniture, stares at walls, loses their house training. Those are our dementia dogs. This is an excellent adjunct or at least a place to start with a pet that's exhibiting those symptoms of cognitive decline. And sometimes I mean, your dog may not be diagnosed with cognitive dysfunction, but they're kind of showing those signs where they've lost their spark and they're not themselves, and they're just kind of checked out and don't play with toys anymore and sleeps all day. So this can still be cognitive problems in the beginning of cognitive decline. So that's where you want to use the ashwagandha to help the brain repair itself, which ashwagandha does help with that. So it helps with engagement and alertness in your dog that's kind of pre-cognitive decline. Another indication is post-anesthesia and surgery recovery. So it supports the pet as far as brain function, but also whole body immune support in recovery. So that's an interesting use for ashwagandha. Safe to use with most anesthesias and surgery. What about pets with seizures or head trauma? This is a great adjunct to pharmaceuticals that you may be using for a pet with seizures. The only caveat here is ashwagandha can boost the potency of barbiturates like phenobarbital. So if your pet is on phenobarbital, if you give ashwagandha, the phenobarbital is going to work a lot better. So you need to be aware of that. Talk with a veterinary herbalist so they can help you and your conventional vet figure out a good way to give both the pharmaceuticals and ashwagandha. So the ashwagandha helps the brain repair, and this is really important with seizures. It's neuroprotective. It promotes dendrite formation. It supports nerve regeneration and neuronal regeneration in the brain, but it also calms the stress response. So this is really a foundational herb in seizure protocols. So cats can get cognitive issues also, like the nighttime yowling, not using the litter box, personality changes in senior cats. But a real important caveat here with cats is to make sure they don't have hyperthyroidism first, because nighttime yowling and litter box issues and personality changes can all be symptoms of hyperthyroidism, and we don't want to use ashwagandha with hyperthyroidism in people or pets. So that's a contraindication, because ashwagandha increases thyroid, which is good if you're hypothyroid, right? And we'll go over that in just a little bit. So more about brain stuff. So what about working dogs or agility dogs, performance dogs, service dogs, search and rescue dogs? They need to be sharp and on it. And so there's research that shows that the enhanced brain activity or cognitive function and the enhanced reaction times and motor skills helps even healthy people and pets. So you can actually use it in your working dogs. So let's go over immune system. I kind of alluded to immune system a little bit because it's immune supportive. So human indications with the immune system, it doesn't just boost the immune system, it modulates it, which means if the immune system is suppressed, like in a situation with cancer, it stimulates it up to a normal level. And when the immune system is overactive, like with autoimmune problems, like your autoimmune hemolytic anemia or lupus, it will bring the immune system down to a normal position, so it's not overstimulated. So it's great for both the immune suppression issues and the autoimmune stuff. Autoimmune diseases in people are like MS or rheumatoid arthritis or Hashimoto's thyroiditis, lupus, and the hemolytic anemia that I mentioned, like all those things. And same in pets. The other thing ashwagandha is used for is allergies. So allergies are interesting. So conventionally, they think allergies is just an overstimulated immune system, but holistically, we know that allergies are both a suppressed immune system and an overstimulated immune system. So ashwagandha is a great herb to add to your protocol for allergies. So let's talk about some specific situations besides allergies for pets and people for that matter. So since I talk a lot about valley fever, this is a great herb to use with a dog or a cat or a person with valley fever, which is a fungal infection, because the key to recovery is to make sure the immune system responds appropriately. And fungal infections can cause suppressed immune systems and overstimulated. So a fungal infection can actually trigger an autoimmune disease. So this is a good herb to use with valley fever in people and pets. And like I said, allergies, good. This is a good place to use ashwagandha because it's a combination of immune deficiency and immune excess or overstimulated immune system. It's a great adjunct. And then there's cancer support. Ashwagandha also has anti-tumor activity. So you can use it in cancer protocols. Other situations where you may use ashwagandha is for a pet or a person with chronic recurrent infections. Maybe they're getting UTIs or urinary tract infections frequently, or maybe a cat with chronic upper respiratory infections. So ashwagandha is immune amphoteric, so it helps the immune system work smarter, and that's important for recovery from chronic infections. Also reduces stress, and stress is a major trigger of infections, especially cats. Like cats with interstitial cystitis, stress is huge. So ashwagandha is a great adjunct to what you're doing for a cat with interstitial cystitis or FIC. We talked about shelter dogs and rescue dogs. So this is also a foundational immune supportive herb for them, and it helps with the stress. It can also help with immune system, like it helps strengthen their immune system, because in a shelter, pets are exposed to a lot of viruses and bacteria and diseases. So it helps the immune system handle all that. And then our old pets is a really great place to use ashwagandha. If they haven't been on it before, you can use it in your old pets, because their immune systems are kind of declining, and so we want to maintain a more balanced immune response. And this is a really gentle, nutritive herb that can do that. So speaking of nutritive, let's talk about the tonic qualities. Nutritive tonic, which means building up the system and blood building. Ashwagandha is rich in iron, so it's very useful for anemia in people and pets. It improves muscle tone and strength and muscle mass, so it's great for muscle atrophy and muscle weakness. It improves the heart and the lungs, so it improves cardiorespiratory endurance in healthy adults. So even if you're not sick, for people, they've done studies on ashwagandha, and it improved the function of heart and lung in athletic, healthy adults. Pretty impressive. Another thing it's used for is failure to thrive. Failure to thrive, right? That is a traditional use from India. They gave very weak children in India ashwagandha, basically ashwagandha milk, to boost up their systems, their immune system, and their muscles, and just in general, help them handle life and stress. And it's been used like that forever. There's a horse study where ashwagandha increased blood cell counts, white blood cell count, red blood cell count, antioxidants, helped reduce cortisol, which is a stress hormone, reduced liver enzymes so they didn't get elevated. So really helped with, this was a horse study, so it helped with making horses healthier, whether they were sick or not. So other things that we could use ashwagandha as a tonifying herb or a fortifying herb as in our pets is anemia from chronic disease. And we see that all the time. And it's very frustrating for veterinarians because anemia from chronic disease happens when an animal, or a person for that matter, has any kind of chronic disease. The body shifts the iron in the body, so it's not available. And then you end up with an anemia, especially like with kidney problems. It's so frustrating. So with ashwagandha, it actually is rich in iron, and it stimulates blood cell production. So it's great to use with anemia of chronic disease, or anemia with chronic kidney disease, or cancer, or valley fever, or maybe tick-borne diseases that cause anemia. So any kind of chronic inflammation that develops a secondary anemia. Okay. Also can be used with immune-mediated hemolytic anemia. So that with the immune-mediated hemolytic anemia, where the body is destroying the red blood cells, it will help rebuild those blood cells better and rebuild the hemoglobin, but also help with recovery because it helps with the stress response of being sick like that. So it's great for the rebuilding stage in something like autoimmune hemolytic anemia. Also good for failure to thrive in pets. So we see a lot of these fading puppies and fading kittens that just you're bottle feeding, maybe these little itty bitty neonatal pets, and they're just not doing well, and you feel like they're going to die. This is a great place to use ashwagandha. Very safe. Can be mixed in with their milk, because there's actually recipes for people for ashwagandha milk. So it can be used with the little babies, puppies and kittens with failure to thrive, because it's used in humans for that reason, in children. Also with puppies and kittens, maybe you have a lot of fleas on a little baby dog or cat, or a lot of worms like hookworms. Those will cause anemia in young animals. So adding some ashwagandha to their protocol can help them recover. So let's go over maybe some pain relief and anti-inflammatory indications. With people, it's used as an anti-inflammatory. It's used for pain conditions, and it's also antispasmodic. So it helps with tense muscles or muscle spasms. It has interesting activities. So it actually inhibits COX-2, which is what the NSAIDs, COX-2 is what causes the GI ulcers that are caused by NSAIDs. So it actually neutralizes that. So it avoids the GI irritation caused by the NSAIDs, which is awesome. I mean, think about that use. It enhances muscle strength. We talked about muscle atrophy, but it enhances muscle strength. So with your pets with atrophy or weakness, muscle weakness. It's great. It's been traditionally used for arthritis because it helps with pain and spasm. So in pets, it can be used for arthritis. It addresses the inflammation, the muscle spasm, the pain, and chronic pain. The stress of chronic pain, it helps modulate that stress component, because when we have pain or when pets have pain, their cortisol spikes. And that's a problem because that's that fight or flight hormone. So the ashwagandha helps with the inflammation in the joint, relaxes the muscles, it's antispasmodic, reduces pain, and addresses the stress and the poor sleep and all that comes with chronic pain. And most anti-inflammatory herbs can only do maybe one of each of these things, whereas ashwagandha does it all. So it's really a great all-around herb. And great for pets that can't tolerate the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, the NSAIDs. So it protects the stomach while helping with the pain. Great for pets with IVDD or intervertebral disc disease because it helps with the pain and inflammation, and it helps with the muscle spasm, which is a significant problem. Normally we use methocarbamol for the spasm. Here you could instead use ashwagandha for the spasm. A lot safer. Hip dysplasia, ashwagandha can be used to address the pain and the compensatory pain patterns that we see with hip dysplasia and the muscle tension and inflammation. And then maybe even post-surgical pain. So there's research that's been done on animals showing that ashwagandha reduced post-operative and neuropathic pain in animals. So it's part of a multimodal plan to manage pain. And pain like spinal arthritis, spondylosis, also non-orthopedic kind of problems like inflammatory bowel disease. So ashwagandha is anti-inflammatory all throughout the body, not just the joints. And don't forget cats. Cats get arthritis. They're very underdiagnosed because cats are lightweight and agile and they sleep a lot. So sometimes we don't realize it, but it's safe to use in cats. I talked about muscle atrophy. Great for senior pets with muscle weakness, muscle atrophy, the guys that are getting weak in the rear end and sinking in the rear end when they're standing or having trouble getting up, helps with muscle strength. And on the flip side of that, our working dogs or our performance dogs, our athletes, the agility dogs, fly ball, dock diving, hunting, herding, search and rescue. It supports physical endurance and recovery from exertion. So it's a great herb to use even in the healthy, active athletes. So let's go over the thyroid stuff. So this is really interesting. And one of the main things that I like to use ashwagandha for is the thyroid benefits. I'm also going to go over some heart benefits and some more on cancer support. But thyroid, ashwagandha stimulates thyroid function. So it actually raises the T3 and T4 levels. Fabulous herb for a hypothyroid person or pet. And so we see, a lot of these dogs that are hypothyroid, just that need additional help, or are kind of pre-hypothyroid, and they kind of have some symptoms of hypothyroidism where they're overweight, they're lethargic, they're getting hair loss, like they're showing some symptoms, but the thyroid blood levels are still within the normal amount or normal value. So conventional vets won't put them on pharmaceuticals like the thyroid, the levothyroxine. So what do you do? So if your dog looks hypothyroid, but their values are still within the normal range, you can actually try ashwagandha because it increases thyroid. So that's one of the biggest things. And hypothyroidism is one of the most common endocrine diseases in dogs. Talked about subclinical hypothyroidism, where they're just in the gray zone. And you want to try to prevent their thyroid from going into full-blown disease, and ashwagandha can help with that. It can also be used with thyroid medication, but you have to be careful, because with using ashwagandha with thyroid pharmaceuticals, you're not going to need as much of the thyroid drug, the levothyroxine, than you normally would need. So when you're using it as a complementary support for the pharmaceutical, definitely talk to a veterinary herbalist. And if you're doing this for a person, or you're a person with thyroid problems, definitely talk to a human herbalist. Let me get you a link for that. Here is a link for veterinary herbalists. So if you scan the QR code, it takes you to a list of herbalists that you can consult with for your pet. And then for people, here's a directory of registered herbalists, which are your human herbalists that can consult with you on ashwagandha or any herb, and make sure you're not, you don't have any contraindications, or they'll help you with all your other supplements and medications, and make sure everything is safe to use together. All right. Let's see. All right. And then with thyroid medication, be careful with cats, because cats can have hyperthyroidism, and you don't want to use ashwagandha with a cat with hyperthyroidism. So that's a contraindication. So if your cat has symptoms of thyroid problems, which would be a big appetite, drinking a lot, peeing a lot, weight loss, maybe vomiting, diarrhea, aggression, those are all possible symptoms of hyperthyroidism. You don't want to use this herb. So you want to always check their thyroid, their blood thyroid levels, before you use an herb like ashwagandha in a cat, because they can have hyperthyroidism. So with the thyroid function affects everything: metabolism, weight, energy, skin, hair, immune function, heart, brain, reproduction, everything. So by supporting the thyroid, ashwagandha has downstream effects and benefits on virtually every body system. And that's why it's called a tonic herb, because it's supportive. So with the heart, real interesting stuff. It's traditionally used for hypertension, so it'll reduce blood pressure. So it does this by reducing cortisol and epinephrine, which is what drives the blood pressure up. So it reduces that stress response. So it's especially relevant in like cats and dogs with kidney disease, or dogs with Cushing's disease, although cats can get that too. So it's great for high blood pressure, and in people also. It helps with, it reduces stress, and it protects the heart. So it actually protects the heart muscle. So again, consult with an herbalist if your pet or if you are on heart medication. So make sure that there's no interaction, because basically herbs can reduce the dose that you need of your pharmaceuticals, because you're using it as an adjunct to the pharmaceutical. So they actually help the pharmaceutical work and can take the place partially of the pharmaceutical. So you're not going to need as much of the pharmaceutical. So you do need an herbalist to help you with that. Your conventional doctors and veterinarians are not trained in herbalism. They're going to have no clue. Okay, so unfortunately, your regular vet and your vet specialist or your physician are not going to be able to help you with managing herbs with pharmaceuticals, but a veterinary herbalist or a registered human herbalist will. Okay, so let's see. Went over kidneys. How about cancer? So ashwagandha has anti-tumor activity. It is anti-angiogenic, which means it inhibits blood vessel formation that feeds tumors. It also prevents white blood cell, tanking those white blood cells during cancer treatment. So like chemotherapy will drop those white blood cells. That's what they always watch for. So it helps prevent that. It helps prevent the fatigue, and it improves quality of life. And that's for both pets and people. It also protects against radiation-induced hepatotoxicity, which is liver damage caused by radiation. So if you're on ashwagandha or giving your pet ashwagandha and they're getting radiation, it's protective for the liver. So it's really awesome. So ashwagandha can be a really powerful part of an integrative cancer plan. Okay, it also helps the anemia that we see with cancer, and especially when people or pets are getting chemo, we see a lot of anemia from that. So it can help prevent that and treat it as well. And really, you know, beyond the direct anti-cancer effects, it helps with quality of life. So appetite, weight maintenance, muscle strength, energy, stress reduction or resilience, and overall vitality. So really quality of life. And, you know, that's the biggest thing with pets and people that are dealing with cancer, is we want them to feel better while they're trying to fight their disease. And then with once your cancer is in remission, or if a pet's cancer is in remission, you could still use ashwagandha for ongoing immune support and ongoing antioxidant support. So it's great for that. And it's great for the, you know, the fatigue and the lack of appetite and maintaining weight and muscle during treatment. So just a great thing. So let's go over dosages. I think I have a bunch of questions on dosages, and we're going to go over that. Let's see. Someone asked if it can replace turmeric. It does not replace turmeric. In fact, turmeric can be used with ashwagandha, so it supercharges it. So a lot of times we'll use those together, so it does not take the place. Another person asked, how young can you use ashwagandha for kittens and puppies? It can be used when they're being bottle fed, days of age. It's safe to use. Okay, and then someone asked, what form and dose do I recommend? Okay, we're gonna actually, let's go over that. We're gonna go over that in just a bit. Let me just tell you there's some contraindications, and then I'm gonna go over dosing. So ashwagandha is in the nightshade family, the Solanaceae family. So if you have a nightshade sensitivity, you don't want to use ashwagandha. If you have elevated iron levels, if you have a condition known as hemochromatosis, you don't want to use ashwagandha. If you're hyperthyroid or your cat is hyperthyroid, you don't want to use ashwagandha. If you or your pet is on a barbiturate, and the most common barbiturate in veterinary medicine is phenobarbital, ashwagandha will cause the phenobarbital to be stronger in your body, so you're not going to need as high of a dose. So you want to be cautious combining ashwagandha with barbiturates. You still can use it, but you want to consult a herbalist to help you put those together safely. All right, so ashwagandha comes in powder, it comes in a tincture, it comes in a decoction, and a decoction is basically a tea that is simmered longer. A tea is just steeped for about 15 to 20 minutes, where a decoction is like a tea, but you simmer it for longer. Okay, so I use ashwagandha powder, and I'll give you a recipe for ashwagandha milk, and dairy-free milk with ashwagandha. But I also use this. I spike my chai tea concentrate with it. So I make chai tea concentrate, and I'll put a scoop of ashwagandha powder in it, because I like to be low stress, right? Okay. And this is ashwagandha root that I get from Mountain Rose Herbs, and it's the chopped up root. You can kind of see it. I'm almost out of it because I've been making tincture. So that root I put in a jar, a mason jar. The root is down here. This is the tincture that it made. So it's alcohol and water in here. So this is ashwagandha in alcohol and water, and it's making a tincture. It actually has to marinate for at least 3 or 4 weeks in there, and then I make a tincture out of it. So this is just my ashwagandha tincture. Okay, so but you can also, like when I put the powder, the ashwagandha powder, in my chai tea concentrate, I'm actually simmering that. I actually simmer it very low overnight. And so that brings out the chemical constituents of the ashwagandha and is medicinal for me. So I'm actually using it medicinal every day in my chai tea. It's wonderful. So the thing with the tinctures is you don't want to use the tincture if you're using it to build blood, because the tincture won't build blood. You have to use like the powder in milk, or the decoction, which is like a tea that you simmer longer, or maybe like the capsules or tablets. But you don't want to use a tincture when you're trying to use it as a tonic to build up the blood. So one of the recipes, David Winston has a recipe, and David Winston is a registered herbalist. His recipe is 8 ounces of milk, 1 tablespoon of powdered ashwagandha. So something like this. And I just got this on Amazon. It's organic. And then you add 1 or 2 tablespoons of molasses, and you put it in a double boiler, and you cook it until it's warm. And with people, you can drink 2 cups a day, and that helps with anemia. So let me give you my ashwagandha milk recipe. This is one I freaking love. Ashwagandha milk. Okay, so this is for people. This is ashwagandha milk, and this is a dairy-free recipe. So you use something like almond milk or soy milk or coconut milk, and put ashwagandha as well as some other spices and herbs in it. And you heat it up at night and drink it at night, and it's very relaxing, and it's very nutritive also. So it's tonifying. So that's my recipe for ashwagandha milk for people. Okay, and then let's go over more pet stuff, because it looks like, I think someone's asking about pets. If you're asking about dosages for people, they are available. I would look at the product that you have and use what they recommend for people. If you're unsure, I would contact a human registered herbalist, or there are books available. David Winston has an herbal therapeutics book, so that's actually probably good for you if you're asking for people. For pets, I'm gonna help you with that. Although when you get a product, when you buy a product, it should have the instructions on there. And if you're unsure how to dose it for a pet, then an herbalist can help you figure out the dose, but we kind of have to know the concentration of what you have, and then we can figure it out. All right, so let me figure out. You're asking about a tincture, a liquid ashwagandha. All right, so I have a liquid ashwagandha by Herb Farm. And for pets, I give about a half to 1 cc per 20 pounds. But that's because I know what the dosage, I know what the concentration is of that tincture. So we actually have to know what your tincture concentration is to figure out the actual dose. So I'm going to give you some of my recommended products for pets. Okay, so if you scan the QR code, I've got some recommended products for pets, and I've got the dosages in there. And some of the products are actually people products. And I have the dosage in there for pets. For example, I've got MediHerb ashwagandha tablets, and we dose the tablets for pets at 50 to 125 milligrams per kilogram body weight per day. And with the MediHerb product, it's approximately 1 tablet per 20 pounds daily. I also have some capsules in there. So again, we're going to use 50 to 125 milligrams per kilogram per day for pets. And that's approximately 1 capsule per 25 pounds of body weight daily of the Ayush herbs capsules, the ashwagandha capsules. Like I said, the Herb Farm, I have a tincture in there. And with the concentration of their tincture, it's actually very concentrated. I use a half to 1 cc per 20 pounds of body weight per day in a pet, and I divide it in 2 or 3 dosages. So I divide it throughout the day. And then I also have a powder, an ashwagandha powder, and it's by Banyan Botanicals, and you use a quarter teaspoon per 35 pounds of body weight daily in a pet. The easiest one I have in there is the Ayush Pet Chews. They're actually little treats for pets, and the dosage is on there. So the picture on the QR code banner there is the Ayush Ashwagandha Chews for pets. But the other products are for people, but I've dosed it for you for pets. So hopefully that helped answer your questions. Let's see. If someone's asking if I offer telemedicine vet consults for pet parents. Absolutely. So if you just need help with like ashwagandha, trying to figure out how much to give or if to give it, and just kind of troubleshoot what's going on with your pet and figure out what to do immediately. I have pet health strategy sessions where we just get on a Zoom and we talk about your pet, and we talk about what you're doing with your pet and what you need to do, and what your next step should be. And I can help you with like ashwagandha dosages, and I can help you with the supplements you have already and dosing those. And I can actually recommend some other supplements that I think would be helpful. So if you scan that QR code, it'll take you to my pet health strategy session, and you can schedule a call with me. The other option that I have is I have full-blown consults. So I have telehealth consults. If you have a pet with a really complex problem, and maybe conventional medicine, you've kind of reached the ceiling on conventional medicine, and they're like, we have nothing more for you, or you want to take a more holistic approach, or you want to combine holistic and conventional, and your vet's like, I don't know what to do with herbs. I do telehealth consultations. I'll actually look at all your pet's records. I just do a total record review, look at all the lab work, all the x-rays, all the records, every entry. And I have you fill out intake forms and answer some questions that I want to know about that a conventional vet wouldn't ask you. And then I take all that information, plus I have you send me pictures of your pet and pictures of your pet's tongue, because I do tongue diagnosis. And I take all that and I put it into an action plan for your pet. So I basically figure out what's going on with your pet. I act as a second opinion. I either take the diagnosis that you have and consult on that, or if you need a second opinion, I will give you a second opinion. Either way, I'm going to put an action plan together for you of exactly what you need to do as far as more testing, pharmaceuticals, herbs, supplements, diet, recipes for diets, maybe physical therapies, lifestyle strategies, like anything that I feel is helpful to get your pet better. And then we jump on a Zoom together for an hour and we talk about all the stuff in my consult email, because I'll send you the email with all my recommendations ahead of time so you can go over that and figure out what questions you have, because it's really detailed. And then we talk for an hour and go over all that and kind of fine tune things. And then I'll send you an email afterwards with anything new we talked about, or specific dosages for the supplements and the herbs that I'm recommending. And then we actually will keep in touch for 30 days. You have unlimited email access to me for 30 days after a consult. That way we can fine tune things, we can pivot if we need to, and we can address problems before they occur or as they occur, because there always can be issues, especially with our pets with chronic issues, chronic diseases. It's tough. All right, so that's my telehealth consultation. Let's see. Someone says they can't scan the QR code. Okay, if you can't scan the QR code, you may be on your phone. So it's hard to scan a QR code when you're on your phone, right? So if you go to drpameladragos.com, so it's www.drpameladragos, like my name down here. But not no spaces and no period. So drpameladragos.com. I have all my consults on there, so you can go there. Thanks for asking that. All right. Oh, good. So the person that wanted the dose had Herb Farm. Awesome. So you got the dose. All right. So if you have questions on that, let me know. All right. So that's ashwagandha. Hopefully I blew your mind about ashwagandha, because it is freaking amazing. So like one herb can do all of this. It's really quite amazing what herbs do. It's like they don't just do one thing like a pharmaceutical. Ashwagandha helps with stress, brain problems, immune system, inflammation, blood health, thyroid, heart, lungs, cancer, all of it. And it's an immune amphoteric, which means it helps the immune system modulate or regulate. If it's too high, it brings it down. If you're suppressed, it brings it up. It's a calming adaptogen. It is something that helps you adapt to stress. That's what an adaptogen is. An adaptogen is an herb that helps you adapt to stress, and it's slightly sedative. I take it during the day and I don't have any sedation that I know of. So it's just calming. And it's nutritive. It's a tonic. It builds your blood. And that's why it's your pet's secret weapon, and it's your secret weapon. So try out ashwagandha. If you have questions, let me know. Let me see if there's any. Someone says they don't know how to scan the QR code because they're using their phone. I will put all the links under the video that I gave you today. So they'll be all under the video in YouTube. So I'll definitely do that. And someone said they just joined and you'll be able to watch the replay. So the replay is available, or will be available. So you'll be able to watch that. And again, if you have questions, just contact me. Okay. At drpameladragos.com. I'm happy to help. All right. Great talking to you. I think that's all the questions I had. And I'll talk to you next Saturday.